if you really want to achieve your goals, prepping them appropriately is vital. You need a very clear, functioning compass, if you will, so that you can make your way toward success. And without those specifics, the things that we're going to cover today, a goal is just a dream. Those play out in your sleep, but they'll stay there without ever becoming a reality. And what I want is for your goals to become your reality. How about you? Welcome to Becoming Tantalum with me, Megan Bennell. Discover your brightest self in a journey of transformation and resilience. Let's embark on this path together, starting now. Hello, my friend, and welcome back to Becoming Tantalum. I hope that you're having an amazing week so far. I am Megan Bennell, your host, and we are here to help you create the life that you love. So this week, we're starting a whole new concept for the month of March called Taking Action. And this is huge because we're going to tie together what we've been learning about tools and concepts that you have to handle yourself mentally and emotionally. And we're going to put those into work to make observable changes in your life. And we're starting with something that is a cornerstone of all progress, which is setting achievable goals. Love that. So in this episode, we're going to dive into what makes a goal achievable and help you set yourself up for success. But before we dive in, I want to encourage you to do something for yourself. So this entire month, we're going to be talking about making it happen. But what is it? It is whatever you make it. So I'm sure that you have a ton of dreams and a ton of goals that you have in your life. And I want you to pick one. Give yourself the gift of just a few moments, some mental clear space so that you can really think about what it is that you want to work on and pick one of those things. And my preference would actually be that you work on one that either you've tried to achieve in the past and you failed, or you're working on one now and maybe it's not going as quickly as you would like for it to go. So pick one, whatever it happens to be. And throughout this month's episode, I want you to keep that goal in mind as we work through these tools and concepts. And then that will allow you to mentally start applying them to that specific goal, making it very, very personal to you. And that's going to make all of these episodes much more meaningful to you. And actually, if you have the time, I would love for you to pause this episode and give yourself those minutes right now so that you can come up with that goal now. And then today's episodes, you can also apply to whatever that goal is. So if you have the time to do that, if you have the ability to do that, pause right now and give yourself a couple of minutes and then restart. So following up on whatever goal you have in mind or whatever goal you pick, I have a question for you. Actually, I guess I have a couple. So you have this goal, something that you want. My first question is, are you taking action? If so, is it working? And if not, why? I love asking questions. I think they're one of the most powerful tools that we have to get to the root of what is boxing us in or what is holding us back. So ask yourself those questions based on that goal that you have in mind. Are you taking action? And if not, why? And I'd like to offer you something. Perhaps today can be the day that you change that. If you're really interested in achieving that goal, are you dedicated to making it happen? And if so, are you willing to try something different so that this time you can find success? Let's get into the concepts for today. So let's start with the basics. Why is goal setting so important? I feel like we hear about it all the time. Well, goals are like a compass. So they give you direction and they give you purpose. And without those clear goals, our actions can be scattered or super ineffective. And so goals are going to provide for you that focus. It will motivate you and offer a yardstick to measure your progress, which is so important for us as humans. But it's not enough just to have goals. You need to have the right kind of goals. And that is where we create achievable, measurable goals. So most people honestly start the failing process of achieving their goals before they even start taking action on one, because it's very, very possible to set goals that are not achievable. And I don't mean them being lofty, not at all. So before we get into that, we're going to talk about later, like how to avoid that. But if you really want to achieve your goals, prepping them appropriately is vital. You need a very clear, functioning compass, if you will, so that you can make your way toward success. And without those specifics, the things that we're going to cover today, a goal is just a dream. Those play out in your sleep, but they'll stay there without ever becoming a reality. And what I want is for your goals to become your reality. How about you? So what makes a goal achievable? I'm sure that you've heard of the concept of SMART goals, and I don't personally teach this concept in my courses or to my clients, but it is important to understand the basics so that you're writing goals that are actually achievable. So this is where the SMART criteria comes into play. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So let's break those down. Specific means that your goal needs to be very clear and very specific. So we're leaving out vague situations. So you know exactly what it is that you're working toward. Measurable means that you have to be able to track your progress and know when you have achieved your goal and little steps along the way. Making it measurable helps us to maintain motivation throughout the journey to achieving our goal. And then attainable, it's good to aim high. I love lofty goals. That's my favorite, is to actually create impossible goals. But your goals need to be realistic and achievable, that you're actually working on, taking action on day to day. And so I'm going to talk you through later a bit of the difference between a grand goal and then your goal at hand. So it has to be one of those goals at hand, an achievable goal. And then it needs to be relevant. So your goal should matter to you and align with your other objectives. So think big picture dream life here. Your goal should be taking you a step closer to achieving that. And then time bound, you have to set a deadline. It creates this sense of urgency that we need as humans, so we don't put it off. And it helps you to stay focused. So my offer is actually to chunk your goals, which we'll talk about in a later episode, into small time frames. So you have a bigger goal and you're just going to chunk it into what needs to be done to achieve that. And I'm talking weeks or a couple of months, not a year or years. Trust me, that trick works. Chunking your goals is huge. So to sum up that concept of a SMART goal, you need to be real specific. And this is a simple way to start prepping your goal. It causes you to dive a bit deeper than going into a vague wish or a dream. So let me give you a couple of examples. Not only are we going to talk about being specific, but we're going to talk about it being measurable and being achievable and being relevant. So I used to want to be a paid speaker. That was like my goal in life, like the motivational type of speaker, right? So I could have created a goal that said, I want to be a paid speaker. But there's no drive in that. There's no specifics to that. Instead, you can work through this process and it can sound something like, I want to be a paid speaker who makes $500 per session, and I want to book my first gig within 2 months. Do you feel that drive and urgency and the specifics in that? And that wasn't my big pie in the sky goal. It was just, here's my goal. I chunked it down, and here's something that I think I can achieve in 2 months. By the way, it works. Here I am, hired to speak by companies to their leadership teams or as a keynote speaker for their company-wide live events. It works. Stay with me. So I'm telling you, your goals are achievable. Another example might be, I want to lose weight. Well, of course you do. So let's add some urgency and some motivation to that so that it can be achievable. What if instead your goal was, I want to lose 30 pounds in 6 months by working out 3 times a week and choosing a healthy diet? Do you feel the difference? There you are. You know what you're going to do. You know how you're going to do it and when it'll be done. Okay, that's a big difference between that and just, I want to lose weight. And personally, I can tell you that getting specific and smart in this case with your goals works. So let's rewind to a year ago. I had just stopped nursing my youngest little one, and my goal was to lose weight. Great goal, right? But fast forward 6 months, I had been working out and I thought kind of eating better, and I had lost maybe 10 pounds, maybe. And I was over it. Finally, I was over it. It was Labor Day and I had to go to a wedding and I didn't love how I looked and I had been working in my mind like so hard for it, right? So I designed a plan, a course, a system, whatever you want to call it, to lose weight. And I followed it to a T. And guess what? With a matter of 4 months, I had lost 30 pounds and without effort in keeping it off. So my first step was to create a measurable and sustainable goal. Mine was, I want to lose 30 pounds by the first of the year. So do you hear that urgency? And on top of that, I want to work out 7 times a week. Yes, that meant sometimes I was doing double workouts in a day. I was dedicated, I'm telling you, and eating what my body needs. So I didn't have a specific diet that I was following. I'm aware of what my body needs to have. I know that cravings are just urges. We'll talk about that another time. And I fed my body what it needed to be fed. So there's specifics, there's measure, there's urgency in that. And that was just the first step. So what we're working on right here was me shifting my goal from I want to lose weight to that really specific goal. And without that first step, all of my other actions were going to be in vain. So for 6 months, I had worked out and tried so hard and done nothing. And now here I was in 4 months and it changed everything because I had specifics and motivation and urgency. So I was changing what I was telling myself in that goal to be that specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time sensitive goal. And there's a little bit more to that story, and I'll share that with you as we go through this month. But I wanted you to know that that very first step was creating that very specific goal. So even with the best intentions, we can fall into traps with goal setting. And that's an example. A common pitfall that we just talked about is being too vague or too grand. Another is not staying dedicated to your goals. I cannot stress this enough. You need to set a target and stick to it. I do want to clarify, though, that this doesn't mean that you're going to have a straight path to that target. You can and need to make adjustments to what you're doing as you go. But that's changing the how. It's not changing the what that you're going to achieve. So what do you do to avoid changing that target? Because that is super common. You make sure that your target is exactly where you want to go. You need to start with the clear, big picture. What is it that you want in life? Break that down into what needs to be done to make that a reality, and break that down into these goals that are specific. And then you pick one to start with. So now you know that your goal is in line with the life that you are trying to create, that you want to have. And there's built-in motivation there because you know it's not just about this goal, but it's about the overall result that you're going to achieve. And you can remind yourself that achieving that is necessary to continuing on that path to this amazing life that you're creating. So there's like double motivation, and not only achieving that initial goal, but that there's more beyond that. So I'm not suggesting, a little caveat here, that your circumstances are never going to change. And when those change drastically, you might have to reevaluate your goals. And I recognize that. But the only reason to change your target is those drastic circumstance changes. It is nothing else. So I'll give you an example. I quit my corporate job, my corporate 9-to-5 job, and my goal was to write a book. It was the scariest thing ever. Clear target, right? Writing a book. However, during that process, I discovered exactly what I wanted to do in life, and that was to be a life coach. Well, that changed my dream life, my big picture drastically. So the book is still here and it's ready to be finished. And I'm sure that's going to be altered a lot based on now kind of where I'm going, but that still aligns with my ultimate amazing life. And now I have this more important, maybe a higher priority goal. And that was to get my business up and running. So I paused the book. That was my original target. And I did the work to create a new achievable goal and got to work. So my new goal of creating a business came into play, and the target's clear, right? Creating this successful business. But man, did I take so many paths trying to figure out which was the right one to get there. My failures taught me over and over what not to do and what doesn't work. And they all motivated me to try something different. But do you see the difference? I wasn't changing my target. I was still working toward creating that successful business, but how I went about it, the way I went about it, did change throughout my journey, but my target did not. So I want to illustrate for you with something totally different, the detriment of changing your target. So I'm a runner. I love to run. If you're not, just use your skills of imagination here. So let's say that I have this goal, I'm running, and my goal is to reach the top of that hill over there, but it gets hard. So I backtrack and I say, okay, maybe I want to reach the top of that smaller hill over there, but it gets hard. So I backtrack and I say, okay, maybe I just want to reach the end of this trail. But do you see what's happening? I felt resistance. So instead of changing my methods, by goodness, like I could have changed my pace. I could have ran in spurts. I could have speed walked, right? Like there's a lot of different ways I could have gotten to the top of that hill. Instead of doing that, I lowered my expectations and now ended up somewhere I didn't want to be, an unimpressive end of a trail, right? So not only am I not happy with my end result, but I proved to myself that I couldn't do it, which probably wasn't true. I allowed the obstacles to determine my progress, but I really, really disappointed myself in allowing myself to give into the hard. So let's translate that into life. So you want to start your own company, let's say, and that gets hard. So you decide instead that you're going to work for a company that does what you want to do. But that gets hard. So you decide instead to just keep working for the company that you're working for and just try to get promoted to as high as you can go there. I don't like that. I think you wouldn't either. Honestly, you gave up on yourself. You gave into the hard. You accepted failure as a reason instead of motivation. And you had this target for a reason, whatever it was that you wanted to start. And now you need to see your target as inevitable, but now what you see it as is just too hard. And those failures are defining you, and you're going to end up at that end of the trail. Instead, you need to pivot and believe in that inevitability because you know that your goal is in line with what you want, and really just take those failures as information and motivation to do something different. You have to stay consistent with the hill that you're trying to climb. You need to climb it. You need to oversee those obstacles. You need to go through the hard. You need to do it regardless of the resistance. But what if you weren't confident in your target, right? What if you're like, maybe that wasn't the hill I wanted to climb? To ensure that you're not changing your goals, you're changing your target every week, you need to do some mind searching and some dreaming. You really need to make sure that the goal you're dedicating yourself to is in harmony with your ultimate life desired outcome. So if you do that, if you think big picture, like we talked about earlier, and chunk it down, then you know that you have the right target. And then you can stick to it regardless of what happens, unless your circumstances drastically change. And the only shifts you're going to be making in general, save those drastic changes, of course, is the how you go about it, the way that you're approaching that goal. So remember that you need to keep your goals aligned with what you want, and you need to keep them smart and stay flexible and adapt to what you need to do to reach them. Your path might not be clear, but your target is. Another suggestion that I have for you, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but it's a very, very important piece of creating these goals, is chunking your goals. So maybe your goal is to become a law partner or a partner in your law firm by 40. Okay, cool. Great goal. Love that. However, depending on your current situation in the law firm, that might be a long and lofty one. And the problem with that is it is so grand that it's difficult to know what you need to do day by day, purposefully and dedicated and specifically. So I'm not saying this to discourage you. I think that what that would be a grand goal, and you need to keep it. But then you need to chunk that down. So my suggestion to my clients and to my students is to attempt to chunk them down into goals that they can be achieved within that grand goals in a matter of weeks or a couple of months. And what that does is it helps you drive. It helps you stay motivated. It helps it make clear to you every day what you're doing that's going to allow you to achieve that grand goal. So you're kind of just chunking them into little bits, if you will. And that's a big piece of being successful, because dreaming big and acting intentionally and purposefully and consistently, but small, allows us to have that motivation, to see that progress, to see that we have achieved something, to keep going. Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit later as well in this month. But I really suggest whatever your grand goal is, if that's what you're thinking of, I want you to chunk it down and think of just several weeks or a couple of months. So let's put all this into practice. Think about that goal that you want to achieve, hopefully one that you've chunked down. You can achieve it in a few weeks, several weeks to a couple of months. And I want you to reframe that into the SMART criteria that we talked about. So make sure that it is specific and measurable, achievable, relatable, and that it's time sensitive. So for instance, if you want to say, I want to get fit, instead, you could say something like, I will attend a 30-minute fitness class 3 times a week for the next 3 months. Do you see the difference? Now, it's not forever. It's not you have this perfect body image in mind. It's, no, I want to get fit. This is what's going to get me fit, I think. And I'm going to stay dedicated to that for this short term. And so at the end of that, that's very measurable, very achievable. And you can see how you did and the results that it had. And then you can pivot if need be, not on the target, but rather how you're going about it. I encourage you to write down your goals and put them where you can see them or where they're in your face every single day. Every day, remind yourself not only of your goal, but why you are taking these actions, because inevitably you're going to come across obstacles, challenges, resistance, and that why is what's going to help you plow through those. And that's going to keep you motivated and keep you on track. So, as we wrap up, remember that the art of goal setting, these achievable goals, is the first step in your journey to taking action. So commit to your START goals. Prepare yourself for this journey that you have ahead to achieving them. And it might seem like a really small step, like you're not actually taking action yet, but it's a vital one. Like, no worries. This entire month, we're going to be diving into tools that you need to make your goal a reality, but it has to be a goal that is in line with what you want, big picture, and that is very measurable, achievable, short term, so that you can monitor that progress and feel that success. So for today, I would love for you to take the time to write a clear, measurable goal. And keep in mind, as we journey through this month of learning how to make all of that inevitable, that's the goal that you're going to be working on. If you're part of the Tantalum tribe, head over to the podcast study guide section, and you're going to be guided through this process of creating this inevitably achievable goal. Like, we dive deeper into all of this. And so we're going to help you create an incredible achievable goal. Be sure to take the time and follow through this day by day before you come to this next study guide, because all of that's really important for the next one. So next week, we're going to explore how to break down your barriers, ensuring a very smooth path to your success. You're going to inevitably encounter resistance and obstacles, both internally and externally. And I'm going to teach you the tools that you need to break down those and to continue on your path to success. Thank you, my friend, for tuning in to Becoming Tantalum. If you found value in today's episode, then please like it, share it, subscribe it, review it. I would love that. I am just proud of you for starting this first step for crafting your blueprint for success. So stay tuned and stay motivated. And remember, the power to shape your life is in your hands. If you are finding the content of this podcast valuable, I would highly suggest joining the Tantalum tribe. If you are ready to start working towards the life that you have always dreamed of, then you can get started today. And we would love to help you transform your life. Goodbye. Thank you for joining me today. If you want to take all of these concepts and tools to a deeper level, apply them to your life, and watch the transformation happen, I would love for you to join the Tantalum tribe. That's a monthly membership where all of our community has access to live coaching, self-paced courses, guest coaches, podcast study guides, anonymous question boards, and more. you too can transform your life using the tools and strategies that we have with accountability built in from our community. I really hope that you join us at tantalumcoaching.com. That's TANTALUM coaching.com. Just click join the tribe. I can't wait to see you in there.
An ironic media production. Visit us at ironickmedia.com.